today what we're doing is we're comparing players as prospects. These are guys that might be ranked, to some people close in value to each other. So we have to figure out where do we want to go, and some may even involve where the draft pick selection may be. So let's get into it. Let's look at the first one here. Nate, at the 101 in a super flex league, Caleb Williams versus Marvin Harrison Jr. This is a tough one right here because, a lot of people are saying Caleb Williams, the consensus 101, generational talent, which I do think that phrase seems to get thrown around a little too easy, in my opinion. And they've got Marvin Harrison Jr. So what are we thinking here? I mean, how are we comparing these guys? To me, Nate, I feel like if you take either of these guys at the 101, I'm not going to fault you for it, even in Superflex League.
Yeah, no, I think there's an argument to be made for either one. I lean Caleb Williams because I think at the end of the day, if both of these guys hit their ceiling, we see it. If you're a top 5 quarterback, you're valued over Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, now more recently CeeDee Lamb and Amon-Ra St. Brown, who have kind of entered that top tier. The quarterback position is just in Superflex. At the end of the day, it's the most valuable position. And if you can have a top 5, top 6 guy, that's that top tier in Superflex leagues. Now, Mike, I know you like to oftentimes fade the quarterback in a startup, but at the end of the day, you also understand that, the quarterback position when you're setting your lineups is one of the most important positions in Superflex. So I think Caleb Williams' upside, just value-wise, just kind of is the tiebreaker for me, but I can definitely see an argument either way. And Mike, you actually like to take Marvin Harrison Jr. at the 101, don't you?
I do. I have a question for you. Just circling back, I love that phrase so much.
Yeah, you do.
Would you say right now Caleb Williams is a top 5 dynasty quarterback?
No, not yet.
Okay,
he's not even on the field yet. Yeah,
because
I think right now he's like dynasty.
They like to make assumptions like that. Would you say he's top 10?
He's about that in startups right now. He's about like quarterback 10, I believe, coming off the board. Because after you get past like the top 6 or 7, you start to have guys that do have some question marks. So at that point, hey, you might want to just roll with Caleb Williams, who, the question mark is we haven't seen him yet. There's all the reason in the world to believe that he's going to be really good. Now, will that come to fruition to 100%? We'll see. But right now, I mean, he's probably just as good a shot as anyone else after that top 6, 7.
Okay, let me ask you this. You have the 101 in a Superflex. Right. Which one are you drafting?
I'm drafting Caleb Williams.
Okay.
I think the only situation where I draft Marvin Harrison rather than Caleb Williams is if I already have 3 quarterbacks. Like I have one league where I have Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, and CJ Stroud. In that league, I probably would take Marvin Harrison Jr. over Caleb Williams, just because, sure, I can get Caleb Williams and trade him. If I can trade out of the 101 back to the 102, I would do that as well. But if I'm stuck at the 101, I'm going to take the pick that makes the most sense for my team, not the guy I think is just going to necessarily be the best value, because I already got 3 good quarterbacks. Maybe I could trade Dak and keep Caleb or whatever, but give me Marvin Harrison Jr. in that situation, because you're getting a stud wide receiver. I think he's going to be a top 5 wide receiver in Dynasty by the end of next year.
For me, I'm probably, I don't want to say 100% of the time, but more often than not, I'm probably taking Marvin Harrison Jr. Now, obviously, a lot can change from now until he gets drafted. If Caleb Williams goes to a fantastic situation where I think he's not set up to fail at all, Marvin Harrison Jr. goes to a less than desirable situation, we got a whole different story right there. However, Nate knows, one of the things he does, a good strategy tip, he knows his league mates. Him and I are in a bunch of leagues together. He knows that I like to punt the quarterback position. Like I said, I did. So I would probably take Marvin Harrison Jr., admittedly. But, we're talking Superflex 101, 102. I think there's going to be some people that are going to make the case for guys like Drake May. You have the Malik Neighbors truthers out there, and I get it. I'm not taking Malik Neighbors over Marvin.
The Jaden Daniels upside with, there's going to be other players taking 101 in some leagues, but in most leagues, we're going to see Caleb Williams or Marvin Harrison Jr.
Let's talk about Wisconsin running back Braelon Allen versus Florida State running back Trey Benson. So I know that you don't like athletes paying running back. Braelon Allen's got some upside. I think he could potentially be a 3-down back in the NFL, but I think Trey Benson could too. Trey Benson's a pretty good receiver of the football. Maybe not so much for Braelon Allen. I don't think he's as good of a receiver, but we got to stop ourselves. We've said this before with Wisconsin running backs.
Yeah, I think he can definitely be a receiver if needed, but Trey Benson's definitely the better receiver, the more natural receiver, you could say. I'll take Braelon Allen on the ground in between the tackles. I think he's a better runner, a more natural runner, in fact, while Benson has the advantage in the receiving game. And then athletically, while Trey Benson certainly is an athlete and can, has some really good speed, he just can't match up with Braelon Allen's size speed combo. We're expecting Braelon Allen to run a 4.4, pretty locked in there. And PFF lists him at 6'2", 245. That's impressive combination of size and speed right there, Mike. And you don't get that with every single running back. That's kind of rare to find. Like those guys that are that big, have that much contact balance and power, and have that speed. Braelon Allen is really impressive from that standpoint, that physical standpoint. And teams are going to like that because teams have always loved that. They've always loved guys they think they can develop. I don't think he needs a ton of development. I think he's maybe a little limited because he might not have the receiving upside. But I can't think of many better downhill runners in this draft class than Braelon Allen. I don't think, whatever team Braelon Allen goes to, I don't think it's going to be one that asks a ton of him to do like, behind the backfield. He's more of a gap scheme runner. You tell him where to go, he's going to hit that hole. And if there's any opportunity for him to make something out of it, he will. But, I don't think he's going to be back there in a lot of zone schemes, trying to make people miss in the backfield and stuff like that and find different holes.
Would you like to know what their current Dynasty Rewind ADP is on both of these players?
I would love to. Yeah, hit me up.
Of course you would. And if you want to, again, contribute to that Patreon free trial, we will happily have you in there. But Braelon Allen right now is the running back 2. He's at the 203, one spot ahead of Bucky Irving at the 204. Just want to throw that out there. But Trey Benson currently the running back 4 at the 207.
So kind of close. Pretty close. Rather close in value. Honestly, I think much like the majority of this running class is kind of a, pick your flavor. One person's going to prefer Braelon Allen, another person will prefer Trey Benson. I can see either one of them going early, mid-second. We've seen Trey Benson even go late first before, like at 112. In this class, if he's your RB1, then sure, why not? So, I think these guys are similar value. So, I love what the Discord is creating right now. We're so excited about the Discord. Just take another moment to talk about, we would love to have you over there, that 7-day free trial, because we're upgrading, new channels coming out. We are redoing the navigation, the menus. There is just so many places in our Discord. It is comprehensive. I can tell you that it's extensive. You'll find a place for you where you can talk to some like-minded people, enjoy, talk to us. I just love the Discord, and I want to get everyone in there because it's a great time.
Yeah, me too. And props to Sean too, doing a great job.
Yep.
Retooling everything and moving all that stuff around. Again, something I don't know how to do. Nate, this next one, I don't know what to do here, what to say. Florida State wide receiver Keon Coleman versus the University of North Carolina wide receiver Devontez Walker. So Tez did not have a good Senior Bowl. His value is plummeting a little bit, and people are really bullish on Keon Coleman. They like the guy.
Yeah, I think we have 2 wide receivers here whose value has kind of stumbled out of the gate over the pre-draft process. Both these guys had a lot of hype coming out of the college football season, but once we got to the pre-draft process, both of them started to fall. Number one, because people got to look at Keon's tape and see kind of those consistency issues that we brought up. He's got an incredible highlight reel, but on a play-by-play basis, there's some questions that we have with his hands, his consistency with his ability to get open. So, he's a little raw, but he's got a lot of athletic ability. He plays very well in contested catch situations. So there's still a lot to like there, but, he's fallen down. I think you can tell us, Mike, what his ADP is for DR. I believe it's somewhere like at the end of the second right now, most likely.
No.
We're at the beginning of the year. It was like end of the first.
Actually, Keon Coleman's ADP right now, he's the wide receiver 7. He's at 202.
202 still.
Tez Walker is at the 211. There was a comment I wanted to address. We did a mock. Keon Coleman went in the 3rd round, and the viewers said, rightfully so, no way Keon Coleman makes it to the 3rd round. And you're absolutely right. I think if he's starting the slide, somebody that wants him trades up and grabs him. Again, it's just a mock draft, and some people value players differently, but the 202, I think that's fair for Keon Coleman right now. It's just one of those things. I do have some concerns about Keon Coleman. The contested catch, we said that he was a contested catch guy. I didn't really see it personally. And Tez, man, those hands, you're killing me with the hands at the Senior Bowl.
It was tough because, I think I said it before, he's just constantly in the right place at the right time. We're just unable to finish the play and bring the ball in. That was the theme of the week at Senior Bowl.
And That's how you get drafted in the 6th round. Ask a guy like Quez Watkins, all the physical tools, but ball's hitting him right in the hand. He can't get it.
Yeah, I don't want to come out of Senior Bowl and be like, oh, Devontez Walker, day 3 pick. He's a 3rd rounder now in my rookie drafts. I mean, maybe he ends up there at the end, but I still think he's a late 2nd round pick. He's got a ton of speed, a ton of athletic ability. He's still a good route runner. Like I said, he was getting into good position, just wasn't able to finish the playoff. So there's still something to be said there. And players can fix drops. One of the more recent players to fix drops, Mike, Dontavian Wicks.
Yeah.
He was always getting open at Virginia Tech. Or was it Virginia? It was Virginia, right?
Virginia. Yeah.
Virginia. And just couldn't catch the ball. Well, he fixed it this year, and now he's catching the ball and getting open together. So, I could totally see Devontez Walker. You take a chance on somebody. If drops are their only issue, I think it's worth taking a shot on them because you can hopefully coach drops out.
Yeah, you can for sure. So Nate, we're at the 108. Brian Thomas from LSU, wide receiver, or Oregon wide receiver Troy Franklin.
Yeah, this is a tough choice at the 108. I got to go Brian Thomas Jr. here.
Okay.
Actually, I was asked this question on Twitter today. I'm not sure if that's where Bob got this from or if he just did it himself. But someone was actually asking, who do you prefer between Brian Thomas Jr. and Troy Franklin? And I like both these guys. I like both these players. I think they're great prospects, honestly. But for me, Brian Thomas, just with his frame being 6'4", 6'3", whatever he comes in, 205 pounds, and the fact that he has the agility that he has for that size, and that he can get down low and drop his hips in his routes and create separation through his routes. He's not like Treylon Burks coming out. Like he wasn't going to create a lot of separation with his routes. He was winning with his physicality and his long speed, and winning those contested catch situations. Brian Thomas is not limited to those contested catch situations and winning in that way. He can get open. He can create yards after the catch. I like what Brian Thomas brings to the table. Also, draft capital wise, he's expected to be picked up at the end of the 1st, which, Mike, I love wide receivers picked up at the end of the 1st because they go to playoff teams with good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And right now, Brian Thomas Jr. is being mocked like almost every other mock I look at to the Buffalo Bills to replace Gabe Davis. And with how Stephon Diggs ended the season, I would be ecstatic about Brian Thomas Jr. going to a team like the Bills. I think he would have all the upside in the world there. Troy Franklin, though, he has a ton of upside as well. I just think with his frame, which is a little bit smaller and slighter, I think he's about 6'1", 185 pounds. He doesn't bring to me as much after the catch as I was hoping to see with him. Just like breaking tackle wise. No, he gets open and he can finish off a big play. But Troy Franklin, just doesn't have quite as much upside as Brian Thomas Jr. So right now, where they're going about the same place, I prefer Brian Thomas. I don't fault anyone for going Troy Franklin, honestly. I think both of them are very, very talented. But I do lean Brian Thomas Jr. I do think the answer moving forward, though, at the 108 is actually going to be a quarterback. I think it's going to be J.J. McCarthy or Bo Nix or whichever quarterback has QB4 off the board.
In time, I think it will. I think you're right. One thing I will say, so our ADP, they're 108, 109. Brian Thomas with the slight advantage. So I don't fault anybody, however which way you go. I like Brian Thomas a little bit better. And to me, it's just his ability to make the NFL catches. And you hear the announcer saying it when you're watching the game cut-ups, just in the corner of the end zone, on the sidelines, he's always getting 2 feet in bounds. I just think that's fantastic. Yeah. The range, the body control, the hands. I just love everything that Brian Thomas brings to the table. And I'll tell you what, if for some reason I'm at the 108 and Brian Thomas is gone, I'm going to take Troy Franklin. I'm going to do it with a smile on my face. I'm still going to be really happy about it.
Well, actually, Mike, if you're at the 108 and Brian Thomas is gone, then I hope you're picking up Brock Bowers or Odunze or whoever's fallen, because that top 7 is what you want. So if Brian Thomas goes in there, you're going to get somebody good at 108.
Let's move on, Nate. Let's talk about a duo of Texas wide receivers, Xavier Worthy versus Adonai Mitchell. I like Xavier Worthy, a little concerned with some of the drops, and they just seem to be focus drops. But I love what he brings. I like what both of these guys bring to the table, really. I personally like Xavier Worthy a little bit more. Let's look at the ADP, shall we? Xavier Worthy, wide receiver 6. So he's at the 112 right now. Adonai Mitchell, is wide receiver 9. He's at the 206. So there's a
bit of a difference there.
Half round there.
I think Xavier Worthy overall has more upside because he truly has game-breaking speed. And what he did his freshman year, we go back to it. And I think I was talking about maybe 2 weeks ago, I think I had a bit of prospect fatigue with Xavier Worthy. And I can admit that. I can be aware of it. His freshman year, putting up almost 1,000 yards, 981 yards his freshman year on 62 catches, 12 touchdowns. It was one of the most impressive true freshman seasons I've seen from a wide receiver since Justin Ross, probably. To see that, you're like, wow, next year Xavier Worthy is going to be like Marvin Harrison Jr. type level, like 1,500 yards receiving, like Bolitnikoff winner. Well, he goes out there. Quinn Ewers is the new quarterback there. He's injured for some time. They can't seem to connect. He only has 750 yards, only 750 yards and 8 touchdowns on 59 catches. And we're disappointed. Now, the drops did pop up, so we were a little worried about that 10.6% drop rate last year. But it went back down this year, Mike. In 2023, it was 6.3%, which was more than his freshman year, but less than last year. Had 1,000 yards this year. I mean, this guy is one of the most talented wide receivers in the draft class. I'm willing to say that, but I really need to see the drops go away because there's no quicker way to not be on the field than to drop the ball. We both know that.
Yeah.
If he can fix the drops, though, I think he has top 5 upside in this draft class. I think he can be someone that you're getting a great value on at the end of the first, early second, somewhere in there. On the other hand, though, I also like Adonai Mitchell. I think both these guys are really talented. You like Adonai Mitchell, Mike? I'm not sure if I've talked too much about him.
I do. Like I said before, I do prefer Xavier Worthy.
I kind of have them tied. I kind of have been on this boat for a while. It's like, which do I want to go with the upside with Xavier Worthy? I think Adonai Mitchell may be a little bit safer because I don't have any worries about his hands. And he's been a red zone threat for Texas, 11 touchdowns this year.
Yeah.
I don't know if he has quite as much upside as Xavier Worthy. He's not quite the athlete that Xavier Worthy is. He's a rare athlete. Adonai Mitchell, a good wide receiver, not like a technician with his route running, but does enough. I like how he wins his contested catches, though. I think Adonai Mitchell has some of the best hands in the class, and that's why I really like him.
To me, I think he's just a solid receiver with really good hands. Like you said, not anything super flashy. I do have Xavier Worthy. I mean, I have Xavier at a 6.60 and I have AD Mitchell at 6.39. So we're pretty close, but I like them both. We got Rome Odunze, Washington wide receiver, versus the tight end one. And to date, Nate, looking at this, one of the highest graded players that any of us has scouted looking at our big board, Georgia tight end Brock Bowers. You want to talk about generational talent? Here you go. This one's interesting because, like Caleb and Marvin Harrison Jr., sometimes it's hard to go at different positions because obviously play the game differently. Your team could have different needs there. But before we get into it, Nate, Brock Bowers, his ADP is the 107. Rome Odunze is the 106. Brock Bowers is tight end 1. Rome Odunze is the wide receiver 3. So, again, we're really close in that Dynasty Rewind ADP here.
Bowers is obviously the top guy at his position, and Rome is not quite. But also Rome's a very good prospect.
He's not far off either.
He's not that far off. So, I think you're happy with either one. This is probably the pick if you have the 106, you probably have this choice. And in a tight end premium league, I'm probably going to league Brock Bowers because you just have more upside with the tight end premium, especially because I think Bowers is a player that, he's going to be a tight end, but between his, and not that he's not a good blocker, but between his size and how you would want to use him most likely, he's going to be more of a slot receiver probably that kind of moves around a bit.
Kincaid.
Yeah, kind of like how they use Dalton Kincaid.
Yeah.
That's how I would use Brock Bowers the next level if I was drafting him as a top 15 pick. That would be the best way to use him. And it's extremely, extremely good for our fantasy football teams to be used that way. That upside in a tight end premium league, I have to lean Brock Bowers. But in a non-tight end premium league, I can really go either way. It depends on team build. There's value in a tight end, but if you already have a top 5 or so tight end, you don't necessarily need Brock Bowers. Not that you couldn't still use him, but I also do like Rome Odunze. I think he's going to come in here. I think he's going to be a top 20 dynasty wide receiver by the end of the season. I really like Rome Odunze. And like you said, I don't think he's that far off of that top tier with Marvin Harrison and Malik Neighbors. I think all 3 of them are incredible wide receivers that we're lucky to have in this draft class.
I will say this too. How many years we said, the 106, 107 is a terrible spot to be in a draft class. And right now, I'm disagreeing with that. I mean, Brock Bowers going off at the 107, of course, in a tight end premium, it's likely higher. Brian Thomas at the 108, Rome Odunze at the 106. If I get any one of those 3 players, I'm thrilled, beyond thrilled. I like them all. For me, I think I slightly lean Brock Bowers. Hey, look at me taking a tight end. I feel like it is harder to find tight ends of this caliber than it is to find wide receivers of
True.
Rome Odunze's caliber.
I don't think
Now,
you're wrong.
there's going to be some good tight end prospects coming out next year. We'll get there. But that's a year away. And if I can have Brock Bowers on my team right now, getting me fantasy points right now, because I like to win fantasy football games, I'm going to do that. So even if I have, it depends too, because there's a lot of tight end rooms out there. I see it doing roster reviews. You like the guys, but there's a guy I'm doing a roster review right now, and he has, I forget who the third guy is. It was somebody not really notable, but it's Jake Ferguson, who I like, Cole Kmet, who I like.
Yeah.
But if you could add Brock Bowers to that and move Kmet, I would gladly do that too, for sure.
Yeah.
Move one of those guys as your draft moves along. See if you can pick up another player you like or some extra draft capital.